This time, the latest adaptation centers on the eponymous Airbender, Aang, and his companions as the youthful Avatar sets out to become an expert in the four bending arts: fire, water, earth, and air, with the goal of ending the Fire Nation's conflict with other human races. The beginning of Aang's journey into becoming an expert of the four bending techniques, or the Avatar, is covered in the first episode. The mission of the Fire Nation to dominate the planet of Avatar is introduced at the outset, along with their attack on the air nomads during a celebration, of which Aang is the lone survivor. Many years later, we met Sokka and Katara from the Water Tribe, who became Aang's first teammates when they found him stuck on the ice. Firebenders are pursuing a member of the Earth Kingdom across the streets at the start of the series. He is able to inform his companion of the Fire Nation's intention to declare war, but he instructs him to depart for the Earth Kingdom while he deals with his assailants. He is apprehended by the Firebenders and presented to the Fire Lord. But as the Fire Lord admits, he wanted the Earth Kingdom to know so they could move their military bases elsewhere and attack the air nomads, who are their true objective. The four nations are brought into balance by the Avatar, and the most recent of them, who has not yet surfaced, is expected to come from the air nomads. Since Fire Lord Sozin is cognizant of this cycle, he intends to end them all in order to prevent the Avatar from getting in the way. Following the championships, the nomads are getting ready for the Comet Festival in the Southern Air Temple. The council meets to talk about Sozin's schemes, and Aang, the young airbending genius who is unaware that he is the most recent Avatar reincarnation. Aang still has a lot to learn, according to Brother Gyatso, but the other nomads insist that he must depart right now to start learning the other arts so he can restore harmony. After that, Aang is ultimately made aware of his actual nature by Gyatso, and the 12-year-old struggles to deal with this newfound responsibility as he gets ready to go on his sky bison, Appa. Troops from the Fire Nation attack the temple viciously and destroy it, leaving no survivors. Although Aang is not aware of the attack, he and Appa are submerged beneath the waves after being hit by a massive wave. We next proceed to Wolf Cove, a southern water tribe community. There, we get to know Sokka and Katara, the siblings who would be journeying with Aang. Teenage Sokka took over as the tribe's chief after their father left to fight the Fire Nation, while Katara was covertly honing her waterbending skills. When Sokka and Katara set out on a boat excursion, certain currents carry their canoe, revealing a massive iceberg. Prince Zuko, who is traveling in the area on a Fire Nation ship, witnesses this building erupt and shoot a massive beam of energy into the sky. His father, Fire Lord Ozai, has exiled him from the nation until he locates the Avatar, and he is assiduously tracking down any indication of the Avatar's location. It turns out that Aang, who was confined within, was the cause of this. After he passes out, Katara persuades her brother to assist in bringing him back to their village so that the little child might be helped. If Zuko is carried to Wolf Cove, the sole village in the area, he also sets sail for it. Aang discovers from Gran, Katara and Sokka's grandmother that he has been shut up for 100 years and is the last airbender when he reawakens in the village. The locals are shocked when he also calls Appa back to his side. Gran assumes that Aang must be the Avatar after seeing Zuko's Fire Nation soldiers in the area of the hamlet. Sokka accuses Aang of being a coward for hiding when the world needed the Avatar the most, and then gets ready to defend the village. In order to keep him safe, Katara takes him along with a few other tribe members. Zuko arrives at the gates with his soldiers. As long as the tribe turns him over, he claims he will only injure them in order to obtain the Avatar. After Katara persuades Sokka not to give up Aang, he goes out into the ice and confronts Zuko. He challenges the prince to a one-on-one fight, but Zuko is too strong for Sokka since he has been practicing facing the Avatar. However, just as he is about to murder Sokka, Aang steps in and, with the aid of the people, repels the Firebenders. Zuko gives the order to burn the town down, but Aang gives up as long as they don't harm the Water Tribe. Zuko takes Aang on board his spacecraft. He asks Iroh, in a jail, why the Fire Nation began the conflict. Iroh claims that although some of their people think the nation must grow and devour, like fire, others think that by reigning over the nations, they would be able to restore stability to them. Aang stealthily uses his airbending abilities to take the keys to his cell from one of his guardians and makes his getaway. He jumps off the deck and tries to fly away from the ship using his expanding and revealed winged staff, but Zuko shoots him down with a fireball as he plummets to the earth below. Fortunately, Sokka and Katara, who had followed Aang after climbing on Appa, arrive just in time, and Sokka helps him aboard the Sky Bison. Zuko tries to shoot again, but Katara bends water to block his shot. Aboard the creature, Katara and Sokka look to Aang for guidance, as they can't bring him back to Wolf Cove without inviting more attacks from the Fire Nation. Aang takes them back to the temple, which they find in complete ruins. And when Aang lays eyes on Gyatso's body, he's overcome with emotion and his powers cause a powerful whirlwind to whip up around him. It's a clear demonstration of how much power he possesses, and how he can't really control it just yet, either. After realizing that his home is in ruins, Aang decides to finish the task he began 100 years ago, to finish his training and become an expert in the other bending arts so that the deaths of the air nomads were not in vain. He may vanquish the fiery Fire Nation, and once more restore harmony amongst the four peoples.
There are many dimensions, Gun. Require unparalleled, and to help you gain control of the Avatar state. They see this, and it can save your life.
In the second installment of Avatar, we follow Aang and his newfound allies to Kyoshi Island, where he seeks to discover more about his ancestry and attempts to find a means of somewhat controlling his powers as he proceeds on his quest to become the Avatar. Though Kyoshi isn't used to having guests, the island population doesn't treat Team Avatar as warmly as they may have thought, and they most definitely don't welcome the Fire Nation members who are pursuing the Avatar. Here is a detailed synopsis of the events in Episode 2 of Avatar, The Last Airbender. In the second episode, Prince Zuko is shown tearing up his ship's stateroom. He is upset that he lost his notebook with information about the Avatar's whereabouts and perplexed as to why the Avatar fled rather than confront him.
In this dustbin corner of the world. How many places can there be?
According to this, Avatar...
You kill someone?
What?
We did our part.
They can protect themselves. Besides, the world is going to have any chance. It's going to be...
Us off the top of this mountain.
He is comforted by Iroh, who says there aren't many locations the Avatar might be hiding because they are in a more peaceful area of the Earth. Aang desires to go to the temple of Avatar Kyoshi on Kyoshi Island. Being a master of the Avatar state and very strong, Kyoshi believed that something would be there to enable him slightly better manage his powers. At first, Sokka is hesitant to accompany them, but Katara persuades him that they must defend Aang. After saying their final goodbyes to Gyatso, Aang's former guru, they ascend Appa and go on with a new companion, a flying lemur.
Like how you look like a Sokka?
Polar. Quail polar.
What are we doing here, Uncle?
There's a hub. Local information.
They've seen the Avatar before.
Without divulging you to have sticky.
After landing at a port, Iroh and Zuko want to speak with Zhao, the area Fire Nation commander, to find out the location of the Avatar, all while keeping their quest for it a secret. In a later meeting, they pretend to be tracking marine species and seek for access to maps and surveillance footage. Zhao finds out via a firebender that Zuko has both found and lost the Avatar after their meeting. Zhao sends the other guy out to see whether there is anything out of the ordinary in their records, reasoning that since Zuko is turning to him for clues, the Avatar could still be in the area. When Aang and company arrive on Kyoshi Island, they find themselves attacked by Suki and the Kyoshi warriors in front of the shrine that was once an Avatar and was constructed in Kyoshi's likeness. Outsiders are not welcome at Kyoshi and risk being charged for trespassing on holy territory. Katara informs the warriors that Aang is the Avatar, but they don't believe her since if he were, there would be a sign. In the meantime, light beams are directed toward the young airbender from the shrine's eyes. The three are taken before Mayor Yukari, who says that the island has avoided involvement in the fight by remaining isolated and that they expected the outside world to do the same. While Aang clarifies that his sole goal is to discover more about his former self, Yukari is unwilling to break any of their restrictions. Suki, Mayor Yukari's daughter, eventually persuades Mom to let them remain. Yukari gives in and gives the travelers 48 hours to peruse their archives in addition to providing food and lodging.
That's mine. That's his...
There goes the savior of the world.
Just all around us. And we
avoided a lot of things, if not happy.
he's a threat. And as soon...
If Zuko's looking to us for instance.
It's great in combat and hunting. Deadly tiger whales.
In another scene, Zhao's boat is seen to have sailed away from the harbor, and Prince Zuko is told by a market vendor that the commander has gone to investigate stories of a flying cow, Appa, on Kyoshi Island. Fearing that Zhao may discover the Avatar before him, Zuko dashes to the same spot.
At your service.
Now?
So, did you know she was an orphan? Where did she go from this?
I never wanted to fight. They had to train. They were how to control my power. How many people?
Mom, the other avatars are inside.
He doesn't want Commander Zhao to deny him the opportunity to apprehend Aang and return home. In the village, Sokka and Suki talk about how they are warriors who cannot change the weather, and they even share a kiss until the sound of the town alarm breaks it up.
You need to turn your opponent's power. You know, as your religious protector.
Been a bender and you're the fiercest fighter I've ever met.
So we have to fight with what we have. They envy you. I know. Stop!
The Fire Nation is en route, and Zhao has touched down on Kyoshi. Off the coast, Iroh surmises that the Avatar is probably at Kyoshi's shrine rather than in the town, so they travel that way instead. Zuko worries that he won't be able to get to the island before Zhao. Zhao and his troops are faced by Mayor Yukari together with the Kyoshi warriors. When they resist his attempts to scare them into giving up the stranger, a fierce conflict ensues.
And so, where there...
Wish we'd had some advance notice.
Had an unexpected visitor. Yes, I've heard the Oshi Island, which is why there's been
because of an outsider. An unfortunate...
You hear it too?
We have to go.
There are many dimensions, Gun. Require unparalleled. And to help you gain control of the Avatar state, this is and it can save your life.
After a fierce battle put up by the islanders, together with Sokka, they begin to lose ground, and Yukari inquires as to Aang's location. Katara tries, but is unable, to wake Aang from his talk with the ancient Avatar at the shrine. The Prince of the Fire Nation hurries over to where she and Zuko had locked eyes. Zuko fights Katara, although he's a much stronger bender. However, just as he is ready to hit Katara, and Aang sees visions of what would happen if he is unsuccessful in his mission, Kyoshi gives him a display of her strength and seizes control of his body.
So what's the point?
You want things to be this island.
This island?
No one's...
I will show you.
The next thing we know, Katara is saved from Zuko by Avatar Kyoshi, who has crashed down next to her. She then makes her way to the village, where she easily repels Zhao's soldiers, prompting the commander to order an urgent withdrawal. Aang returns to his body once the threat has passed. Suki bids Sokka farewell with a kiss and a present of one of her battle fans after Yukari praises them for giving the islanders a cause to hope in the Avatar and in themselves. Then, Team Avatar departs on Appa, leaving the island behind. When Sokka inquires as to whether they will see more of Kyoshi, Aang replies that he has discovered he can only summon former avatars at their own shrines. Their next trip will be the Northern Water Tribe, where Aang has a terrible prediction that only he can avert. Additionally, Katara is aware that their waterbenders are the greatest in the business, making them the ideal candidates to assist in teaching the youthful Avatar the ways of a different element. As the second episode comes to a close, Zuko begs Commander Zhao to keep the Avatar's reappearance a secret from anybody else. He offers to combine his resources with Zuko's and accepts. Zhao, however, quickly violates this agreement in secret by informing Fire Lord Ozai that the Avatar has returned.
I don't need fire to defeat this boy.
My most memorable Avatar, the last Airbender episode to date, is Episode 3. It succeeds by introducing new characters and allegiances and giving us a look at how a normal area and everyday people have adjusted to the protracted battle with the Fire Nation. The whole story takes place in the titular Earth Kingdom city of Omashu. This is by far the best multi-dimensional Season 1 episode that the show has felt thus far. Zuko's father, Fire Lord Ozai, is the target of a coup attempt at the beginning of the episode, but his daughter Azula stops it. This scene is significant for two reasons. First of all, it presents Azula, who despises her brother, appears to take great pleasure in seeing others burn alive, and is more than willing to plot in order to achieve her goals.
The one who's...
What do you have? Just.
However, it also demonstrates how pro-Avatar enthusiasm is starting to spread even within the Fire Nation, which is another reason why Aang poses such a threat to Ozai. With the assistance of a young woman who works inside the palace, a group of civilians in the Fire Nation prepare an assassination attempt on Fire Lord Ozai. After making it to the throne room, the gang is confronted by guards and made to surrender. The young woman identifies herself as Azula, the princess of the Fire Nation and Ozai's daughter. After killing the gang, Ozai demands that the guards depart. Zuko has discovered the Avatar, as shown by the memo he gives Azula that he got from Commander Zhao. Azula panics at the news, thinking Zuko would take her place as the heir. Aang sees an airbender passing above the Earth Kingdom city of Omashu while he is riding on Appa. Katara and Sokka are aided in their attempt to enter the city by a turnip farmer who lets them in on the pretense of being his assistants. The turnip farmer informs Katara that Omashu is a deadly place once they get in the city. After pursuing the enigmatic airbender with his glider, Aang discovers that Teo, the little child, is truly an airbender and utilizes a mechanical glider to soar. Teo discloses that Fire Nation agents have entered the city when an explosion occurs close by. When Teo brings Aang, Katara, and Sokka to his house, they meet Teo's father Sai, also referred to as the Mechanist, who gives the monarch of Omashu blueprints for future technological developments. But when Katara observes Sai meeting with a Fire Nation spy, things start to go wrong. Suddenly, Jet shows there and accuses her of being a traitor who has been selling ideas and secrets to the Fire Nation. She follows Jet as he follows the Fire Nation spy and gets into fights with his buddies since she has no reason not to believe this. Jet is the leader of a band of Robin Hood-like freedom fighters that are stationed in the forest. Among his companions are the gigantic Pipsqueak and the archer Longshot. Jet, who reminds her of her mother, assists Katara in developing her waterbending abilities even further. Meanwhile, Aang and Teo investigate a cave that they believe is the location of the bomb making. Regretfully, they uncover evidence that implicates Jet as the bomber. This creates a rift in the group since Katara is more inclined to believe Jet, but Sokka, who has a connection to Sai via engineering, won't entertain the idea that he may be a traitor. It's unfortunate that this is settled around 30 seconds later since it hides any evidence of the group quarrel. When Jet's guilt is eventually exposed, Sai's communication with the spy remains unexplained. Regardless, Jet admits that he has planted a bomb on Sai with the goal of detonating both Sai and the King of Omashu, who he is now seeing. When they hurry out to stop Sai, Iroh and Zuko, who had reached the city because Zhao heard about an airbender there, encounter the gang. Zhao reports that an airbender was spotted close to Omashu to Zuko and his uncle Iroh. He offers to help them capture the Avatar, but Zuko declines, stating that Iroh and he will be the only ones going. Later on in the day, Zhao gets a message from Azula promising to assist him in capturing the Avatar from a distance. The turnip farmer's ropes, which aided them in entering Omashu, and blasting jelly are discovered in a cave near the summit of the mountains where Aang and Teo glide the next day. When Katara discovers that Sai is providing ideas to a firebender, she is going to question him about it when the turnip farmer stops her. Jet, a freedom warrior battling the Fire Nation spies in Omashu, exposes himself to be Jet, and he informs Katara that Sai is one of them. He takes Katara to their treehouse hideout and shows her to his team, which includes the Brash the Duke, the Archer Longshot, the Knife Master Smellaby, and the Brawler Pipsqueak. Jet discloses that the Fire Nation murdered his family when he was 8 years old. Katara can identify with Jet's story, having also lost her mother to the Fire Nation. Jet helps Katara learn the Water Whip, a waterbending technique she was having trouble with, by encouraging her to concentrate on the good things rather than the details of her mother's passing. While exploring the city of Omashu with Zuko, Iroh finds a White Lotus Pi show tile. After helping Sai create a blueprint for a hot air balloon at his residence, Sai advises Sokka that he should become an engineer. Upon their return, Aang informs Katara that he has discovered Jet's blasting jelly and deduces that he is the bomber. However, Sai is assumed to be accountable by Katara since she saw him with a Fire Nation spy. Furious that nobody takes her word for it, Katara rushes to track down Jet, who confesses to being behind the bombs and that his next target will be the king with a device he swapped Sai's for and put in a bag. When Katara orders Aang and Sokka to stop Jet, the three sprint to do it, but Zuko shows up and starts fighting Aang. After using Omashu's delivery system to reach the palace, Katara and Sokka employ the water whip maneuver to foil Longshot's fiery arrow, preventing it from setting off the bomb and killing the monarch. After Aang clashes with Zuko and admits that he knows the latter has been pursuing him for 3 years, Zuko concludes that Aang has stolen his notebook. After becoming enraged, Zuko starts bending fire, forcing people to escape the city. When earthbending guards show up, they arrest Aang and Iroh, who then publicly firebends to help Zuko get out of the city without being seen. Aang battles Zuko while Katara and Sokka attempt to catch up with Sai. With true choreography and physicality, this battle is my favorite of the series so far since it relies less on CGI. Additionally, there's a little amount of character as Aang asks Zuko why he's so determined to catch him, and it's evident that Zuko hasn't given anything any thought. It is obvious who the more evil of the two siblings is when Azula surreptitiously wrote to Zhao, requesting that he provide her updates on Zuko's assignment. Zuko and Aang fight, but in order to protect himself from the Earth Nation, Zuko cannot use firebending. Zuko starts to set fire to himself and has to run away when Aang admits that he has read his journal. Sokka and Katara ascend Omashu via the enormous delivery slides. Longshot tries to ignite the bomb with a fire arrow, but Katara is able to stop it with the water whip method. The Earth King, Sai, and Teo are all spared. To get the soldiers to move away from Zuko, Iroh freely firebends. Unexpectedly, warriors from Earth Nation grab Aang. Nevertheless, near the conclusion of the show, mayhem breaks out as Zuko overuses his firebending powers, attracting the notice of the Earth Kingdom military, who detain Aang in the process while Zuko manages to escape. Avatar, The Last Airbender has an abundance of characters and storylines. Omashu makes an effort to incorporate as many as it can while giving them careful consideration. It moves story points around rather skillfully, yet the overall impression is one of disarray. Though it's difficult to argue against the awkwardness of those prolonged, "here I am, remember me" moments, the references to the animated version seem fantastic. When Jet's identity as the boy from the beginning is established, it is most accurate. Numerous themes are there, despite the impression that Netflix's ATLA is straining to include all the fantastic scenes and people.
Help you fight. Choose a life.
5 on us. Preparing breakfast. She'll watch and smile.
Remember that. What are you doing? Trying some Omashu. Big game. I'd like to speak to him.
Sokka!
He just left to show it to the generals at the palace.
The fact that Sokka and Sai bond over engineering shows how young he is and how difficult it is to appreciate the little things in life during a war. When Katara feels constrained by her mother's passing, she examines her trauma and learns to recall the positive aspects of her mother. Jet demonstrates how simple it is to err on the side of harshness, even when one has morally admirable beliefs. This episode's combat choreography was really awesome. Jet's 2 hooked swords have a remarkable range and gracefulness. In addition to being expertly executed technically, Zuko and Aang's hand-to-hand fighting was also easily edited, which frequently improves the feel of bouts. It's all too typical to make a lot of hasty cutbacks and missed movements. Certain CGI scenes felt a little off, as the production relied heavily on several enormous sets. It was difficult for the backdrop and foreground of an early flying scenario on Appa to blend together. Throughout their journey through Omashu's delivery system, Sokka and Katara encountered numerous jagged motion blurs. Episode 4 of the live-action series continues the group's journey in Omashu with the group's storylines with Bumi, Haru, Tyro, and Jet continuing in this episode. It also features sections of Book 2's second episode, The Cave of Two Lovers, and Book 1's seventh episode, Winter Solstice, Part 1, The Spirit World. Part of Iroh and Zuko's backstory is added and features nods to Season 2, Episode 7, Zuko Alone, and Episode 15, The Tales of Ba Sing Se. The group's voyage in Omashu is continued in Episode 4 of the live-action series, which also features Bumi, Haru, Tyro, and Jet's ongoing tales. It also includes excerpts from The Cave of Two Lovers, the second episode of Book 2, and Winter Solstice, Part 1, The Spirit World, the seventh episode of Book 1. There are references to Season 2, Episode 7, Zuko Alone, and 15, The Tales of Ba Sing Se, in part of the tale of Iroh and Zuko. The Earth King calls Aang to him. It turns out that King Bumi is around 110 years old and was Aang's boyhood pal. Though Bumi has gone a little crazy, he makes jokes about it. Once more, Katara and Jet discuss Jet's plan to blow up Sai and King Bumi. She abandons him after freezing him to a wooden stand. In order to save Uncle Iroh, Zuko sneaks into the dungeons wearing the garb of an Earth soldier. Sokka and Katara discover the tale of the two lovers who established Omashu in an effort to save Aang. A musician narrates the tale and directs them to proceed via the secret tunnel through the mountain. Aang recalls his friend Bumi from the third episode, 100 years ago. Bumi always had an unconventional mind and made a bison whistle that Aang still uses. Today, Aang is being held captive alongside Iroh by the warriors of Earth Kingdom. Iroh informs Aang there that he and Zuko are more than just their image. Iroh is taken by the Omashu warriors to the Pit, a perilous jail in Earth Kingdom, while Aang is escorted to meet the monarch, who Aang surmises is Bumi. Aang can sense Bumi is upset with him for disappearing for a century even though Bumi is throwing him a feast. Bumi attempts to remind Aang of their history together while also leading him into traps that he must avoid or escape from using airbending. Once again, Jet attempts to apologize and explain himself to Katara, but she doesn't take him seriously and freezes him with ice attached to a pole. When Sokka and Teo discover that Sai is giving the Fire Nation designs and secrets, they get enraged. However, Sai justifies himself by saying that he was attempting to keep Omashu secure from the Fire Nation, which would allow him and his kid to escape. After learning that Aang has been taken prisoner, Katara and Sokka make the decision to save him, and Teo divulges that the palace is accessible via hidden tunnels that run beneath the city. Sokka begs Sai to turn over the Fire Nation spies to the Earth Kingdom forces before departing. Zuko, in the meantime, must decide between pursuing Aang and saving Iroh after posing as a soldier and learning where Aang and Iroh have been taken. As Sokka and Katara enter the secret tunnel, they are met by a chorus of singing nomadic minstrels who alert him to the existence of the tunnels and tell them that Goma and Shu, two forbidden lovers from rival villages, built the elaborate tunnels to meet in secret after studying the movements of Bajamols. Shu utilized her earth-bending abilities to put a stop to the conflict and found the city of Omashu after Oma was killed in an attack. When the two brothers venture inside, they discover that the tunnels are moving because of Bajamols, which reside there and have the ability to perceive emotions. The Bajamols don't attack Sokka and Katara because of their love for one another, which leads them to the palace. Iroh is insulted by an earthbender guard en route to the Pit, because he is angry at Iroh for having besieged the Earth Kingdom capital of Ba Sing Se for 600 days while serving as a commander for the Fire Nation. After asserting that he has no experience with grief, Iroh had a flashback in which Zuko comforts him during his son Lu Ten's burial after the latter's death in the Battle of Ba Sing Se. Iroh accompanied Zuko on his search for the Avatar after Zuko reminded him of his son. Iroh leaves a white lotus pie show tile on the ground in the present, which Zuko discovers later and used to locate the Earth Kingdom warriors. When he frees Iroh, Iroh sustains injuries during the escape, while the two search for a boat and attempt to return to their ship. Aang is challenged by Bumi to a death-defying battle. As Aang continues to dodge Bumi's blows, Katara and Sokka show up. Bumi forgives Aang after Aang reminds her of their previous relationship. Sai, who followed Sokka's advice and betrayed the Fire Nation spies, gives Bumi the motivation to pick up the battle against Fire Nation anew. After leaving Omashu on Appa, who Zuko notices soaring overhead, Aang, Katara, and Sokka focus on bringing Iroh to safety. Avatar, The Last Airbender's fourth episode keeps up a strong foundation of fervent cinematography. Many components are faithfully replicated from classic times, although certain adjustments may not sit well with die-hard Katang stans. All in all, Avatar proceeds to the sound of the magnificent closing titles. Or the song from the secret tunnel, maybe. Some of the greatest and worst moments occur in the tunnels. Minstrels are included to appease a certain fan base that is infatuated with the secret tunnel song. While it's obviously fan service, it's done with sincere humor. It was a little frustrating that they seemed to speed through the major song in favor of an entrance song. When Aang and Katara first enter the tunnels, they allow the lights to go out so they may have a kiss. It becomes evident as season 1 goes on that Aang has feelings for Katara. The Netflix version is, at best, delaying a semi-major story event. Given that it's a little more difficult to sell youthful love with real children, it would make sense. Newcomers won't notice the loss because it's been replaced with a more grounded examination of Sokka and Katara's bond as siblings. Aang confronts Bumi by himself, but this just in time provides a light-hearted Deus Ex Machina moment. Although Bumi's makeup doesn't precisely suit her age of over 100, it's a good decision that she doesn't come to life during a battle. In this rendition, his conflict with Aang is surprisingly expressed a bit more clearly. In less than a second, their victorious tumble down the delivery chutes flashes over the screen, sort of demonstrating the subpar CGI used in that idea. Even with a few killed darlings and little setbacks, ATLA is still a popular adaptation. I jumped over to Reddit just to find out fans' feedback and some of the remarks we might have missed. First of all, no TV show or movie is perfect, and not everyone can give any particular show or movie a 100% rating. Like Illustrious Yam 9010, who tend to defend Katara in the essence that Katara was overhated. This expression generated a lot of heat, and Zoe Zoestar pointed of quote, Kai Wentio did a good job she was given, no hate to her whatsoever, I think she's talented. The problem is the script writing and the creative choices around her character. They removed just about everything that made her interesting in the show and made her into a flat, boring version of the Katara from the show. Like they took out Sokka's sexism from the show, but they also made the show more sexist lol. Like she has no real agency of her own, she relies on other characters like Jet and Aang to push forward her waterbending skills. She's always talked down to by Sokka when in the original show she took the maternal role and she was way more mature. That's not even to mention that she has no subtext. We are always expressly told how she's feeling rather than being shown. Her character is disappointing and really boring. The Netflix show has no mystery, no subtext and no respect for the viewer. They treat us like idiots who need everything spelled out to us.
I knew the crystals were wrong.
If you hate on the actress or even to go as far as to harass her, you're a massive piece of itch. End of quote. Hopheadful for improvements in Season 2 reasonable_oil 6930 cited. I don't condone hating on the actress, but I do hope the writers do her justice in Season 2. She wasn't angry enough or joyful enough for me. Not to mention they did her and Aang dirty when they didn't learn any water bending at the Northern Water Tribe. Some had all the heat directed to them on noting that the show was not interesting. The birds noted quote unquote, the show is very frustrating. However, some sided with his sentiments. Buttershark had this to add, quote unquote, yup, I agree with all your points for the most part. I felt like my and Ty Lee edition was just so the audience could have a Leonardo DiCaprio pointing me moment. Katara's character felt a little flat, not her acting, her actual character, since they really didn't give her a lot to work with. I love what they did with the Zuko, Ozai, Azula dynamic, and I love the Lu Ten funeral scene. I didn't mind the Pakku fight because we actually got to see hints of original Katara, though even that was watered down. And yeah, I felt the romances with Suki and Yue felt a little rushed. It was really jarring to see them kiss after like 20 minutes of screen time. I did like the changes to Yue though, gave her a bit more agency as a character. I was bummed we didn't get more Roku, as he was Aang's primary mentor, and when he did, the first thing he did was crack a really awkward joke. I wanted a whole episode dedicated to Roku and his island, as that was just such a cool two-parter EP. I liked that Aang had moments with the other avatars though. Kyoshi was badass, and I didn't mind the whole Aang not running away thing, as the end result was still the same. He was still clearly overwhelmed with his role as the Avatar and was a scared kid, but, unlike the show, the context was a little different, so they didn't have time to really hone in on the effect separating Gyatso and Aang would have had, as they're literally in the middle of a big celebration, and then the Fire Nation comes. Yeah, him clearing his head had less weight than him actively choosing to run away, but IDK, like I said, the end result was still the same. He still felt guilty for that too, I know I would. To summarize, Jew Representative 88 had a few thoughts. Quote unquote, I agree overall the show is good and has promise. It is leaps better than the adaptations of the Foundation and Wheel of Time shows. Anyone complaining this show butchers the animated series should read those stories books and then watch the massacre that is the shows. Don't disagree with your issues on Aang. A sacrifice of limited episodes. I liked Katara overall, but I get where you are coming from. Overall, I actually think the show has the potential to give us a better Katara than the animated version, one who romance with Aang actually works. Mai and Tai, this is where I push back. The instinct to bring them in and have Azula scenes this early was brilliant. Keep in mind this show is for people who have not watched an Avatar. If that's the case, they need to set up these key characters early on when seasons 2 and 3 are far more packed with story. They had to set these characters up now. Having said that, they needed to do a better job showing their personalities. Poor execution, but the instinct was perfect. Loved Yue, but your rushed complaint is valid. In fact, my biggest complaint is they failed to show any real-time pass at the Northern Tribe, which is why we see Aang do zero waterbending. In the first scene, episode 5 of Netflix's Avatar, The Last Airbender, the group is fleeing from a few troops in an unidentified place. There's not much logic to their running. After Aang and Katara unite to repel the troops, 10 more charge at them. And Katara hits them with ice discs to defeat them right away. In an attempt to flee the troops they've been dropping like a bag, the gang leaps on Appa. Aang and his companions pause in a burned-out forest that the Fire Nation has ravaged as they get closer to the Fire Nation. They arrive in the area of the forest that has burnt. Aang becomes upset about the damage, but remember that only a tiny portion was burnt.
Waka waka. How about...
She on later for me.
Katara tells him that the little region will develop again and that this is how forest fires operate. A little girl who Sokka sees guides them to a nearby settlement. The village chief reports that a number of people, including his son Xiong, have vanished.
Something?
You're right.
No reports of anything unusual.
None. But he was probably mistaken.
That unusual, wouldn't they? No. I'll have to do it myself.
Aang enters Spirit World to save the people because he won't let this issue finish and because he still feels bad about escaping the Airbenders.
I need to get to the north so I can safely...
It's a... Pacific.
But Sokka and Katara are also drawn into the Spirit World. When Aang first arrives in the Spirit World, Wan Shi Tong, a massive owl that only Aang can hear, tells him to stick to the road in order to avoid harm. The ghost tells Aang to look for a guy in a cabin just outside the fog because his companions are in danger there. However, Hei Bai then shows up, scattering the three and making them become lost in an illusion created by the surrounding fog. Katara is forced to relive the moment when her mother was transformed into a crispy, flame-broiled human. However, Sokka is taken to a period in time when he learns that his father believes he is unfit to be a leader and is disappointed in him. Zuko and Iroh discover that the majority of waterbending complaints they investigate elsewhere are unsuccessful. Rather, Iroh enlists the aid of June, a bounty hunter, and her Shershu Nyla, who has the ability to follow anybody.
He's that canyon guy.
They've heard about the Avatar.
I'm gonna lose him. I'm gonna lose every... The hunters will be out.
Don't die, you idiot. What are you looking at?
Should have known they would have let mercenaries run. I'm sure they are. Now, let's go.
There's much you can learn from these pie show.
Heals himself. what she does, and that's finding, and she doesn't eat. Wrong way of doing things. We have yet to draw our tire.
Tell me about this avatar.
When Azula attempts to persuade Fire Lord Ozai in the Fire Nation that Zhao ought to get additional resources for discovering the Avatar, Ozai agrees but cautions Azula that Zuko is battling honorably rather than employing cowardly manipulating methods. Zhao is promoted from commander to admiral, and Azula gives him the use of the Yu Yang archers, skilled non-bender archers. The group meets Hei Bai, a spiteful spirit, and the ghost of the burned-out forest in the spirit world, as was previously revealed in the storyline. He assaults the group, causing them to go off course.
I can't bend.
I didn't mean me.
Oh, human. Hello. I am no birdie.
What do you mean?
They do not hear.
Following her return, Katara is made to recreate the day the Southern Raiders stormed the Wolf Cove at the Southern Water Tribe. Even though Katara attempts to stop her mother Kiar from going inside, her mother continues inside. A young Katara hides and observes Yon-Ra, a firebender, question Kiar about who the final waterbender in the Southern Water Tribe is. Young Katara then tries to use bending to shield her mother. Nevertheless, it fails, and Kiar accepts responsibility for the waterbending, which results in Yon-Ra killing Kiar.
You're lying. So much.
Sokka comes upon a fox spirit that has a sign that he recognizes after going off the route. From there, he is transported back to the day he passed the ice dodging exam, when he heard his father call him a letdown.
And does to you, changes you into something. Do you always?
It smells like back.
It's mark of the wise. This is the day you pass.
You were cutting it a little closer.
If you hadn't been
Right, and selecting the right.
I'd hate to see what you do to a boat when you fail.
It was a tricky run. Even I only saw stuff that hit you. People's lives in their hands.
Minds.
The face stealer Ko catches Katara as well as not Sokka. More on it later. His presence is a little strange and doesn't make much sense. Upon realizing he is going to enter an illusion and breaking free, Ko approaches Aang in a visually unsettling manner. He claims that Aang and he share a past together and makes a suggestion about killing his former life's partner. Ko then accuses Aang of robbing him of something before running off. Ko is strong, but his ability to take the face of anybody who expresses emotion makes him very lethal. When Katara and not Sokka first encounter Ko, they are both afraid. And Aang is obviously uncomfortable with him around. Aang finds out that Sheung and the other villagers have been taken prisoner by the evil spirit known as Ko. After escaping what is known as the Fog of Lost Souls, Aang discovers Gyatso residing in a hut. Gyatso admits that Ko is a dangerous person and that he has previously interacted with avatars, including Aang's avatar Roku from a former incarnation. Aang makes the decision to go to Roku's shrine and beg for assistance, telling Gyatso they will speak when he returns. Gyatso warns Aang before he departs that he would have been slain if he had not escaped the air nomads.
They're somewhere in the bog.
Lost memories, and
The ones we came to rescue.
their souls will be lost. This predator.
I've taken some.
Nobody knows exactly what happened. It'll be a dangerous journey. There's something I need to tell you. The Fire Nation. It's not yours. You should have. Time is up.
In the end, Aang leaves the others behind and heads toward Roku's temple in the Fire Nation. June, Zuko, and Iroh may be seen leaving to apprehend Aang in the meanwhile.
It's too dangerous.
Keeping sight on what's important. And the only thing keeping. when things we can't control come. What it is, that be the light that guides you through of nights.
Masks, the sixth episode of Avatar, The Last Airbender, delves straight into the metaphor of the show's title. Zuko appeared to be a much happy young guy before he got his scar. He is eager to join his father, Fire Lord Ozai, for their first meeting to discuss combat tactics. Zhao receives a promotion to the rank of Admiral. Using this, he undermines Zuko's authority. Although the crew is relieved that Zuko is no longer in charge, Iroh cautions them that they are unaware of the sacrifices Zuko has made. Commander Zhao is the source of Zuko's problems, but from what we can see, the roots of the problem lie with his father Ozai and his insane sister Azula. Zhao has been given more resources by Ozai, who has also elevated him to the rank of Admiral and given him command over the whole Aang search. The fact that Zuko's team doesn't appear to care is much worse. Some people, like G, are genuinely delighted about it. Naturally, thus far, Zuko hasn't exactly been the most enjoyable boss, but so much for loyalty. Aang goes to the temple of the firebender avatar Roku. Meanwhile, continuing from episode 5, Aang has quietly entered the Fire Nation and arrived at Avatar Roku's temple before being confronted by 3 monks.
Be close.
Okay, Nyla.
Not any one kingdom. Have lost their way.
Fortunately, one of the sages, Shu, comes to his aid and buys him some time to speak with Roku. The shrine's monk guards get violent toward Aang since they are no longer content. As Aang communicates with Roku via the shrine, the modest guy named Shu deters the monks. Aang is informed by Roku about the totem he took from Ko. Kyoshi and Roku are significantly distinct in personality. He has a humorous side. He does, however, get serious when Aang brings up Ko since, in reality, Roku didn't really vanquish him. Rather, he made off with something that was valuable to him, which helps to understand why Ko is now acting so vindictively. The object is a totem that symbolizes both Ko's mother and the mother of identity in general, which helps to explain Ko's entire face-swapping strategy. It doesn't really explain why, in spite of Ko causing mayhem in the forest, Roku has managed to hang onto the totem for so long. In order to get Sokka and Katara back, Aang intends to exchange it. Regretfully, Aang is apprehended by June before returning to the jungle.
Fight to get it. As far as I'm concerned. Oh, and careful. Mess me.
If I don't return soon, on you, have someone's life in your... You couldn't have always...
Zhao appears and snatches Aang for himself after the bounty hunter brings him to Iroh and Zuko, who had disobeyed his instructions to pick him up. Years ago, during a discussion on battle strategy, Zuko speaks uninvited. He describes as terrible a general's intention to sacrifice an entire battalion. As a punishment, Ozai commands Zuko to battle a Agni Kai. An Agni Kai is a firebending custom where 2 fighters battle until only one is left burning. Katara and Sokka are saved by Aang, who also gives Ko the totem back. Aang is taken over by Zhao. Iroh advises waiting before attempting to take back the Avatar.
They can shoot the...
To take possession of his prize. He's
out for the archers, but Zhao most likely
Would be suicide. Entire arm, but Ozai does. And if he stay, and that's when we can...
Make it clear I spared no effort for posterity.
Please, you have to let me go.
Make sure you get it right.
They're in it. It's not my future I'm worried about.
We were born, we have to begin our search for the Avatar.
blow off.
Until now, only one feat
A
done.
strange figure wearing a blue mask enters the stronghold where Aang is being held captive covertly and releases him. They battle their way to the main entrance. When the blue spirit threatens to murder Aang, Zhao lets them go because he wants the Avatar to survive.
Sound the alarm.
Run now.
Make sure the great sage has every...
Zuko is made visible after an archer breaks through the Blue Spirit's mask with a blow. Zuko is taken to safety by Aang. While Zuko heals in a barn, Aang tries his hardest to become close to him.
Hold your fire. Alive.
You're doing.
Open gate!
Do you have a shot?
Can't go anywhere. Nope. Can I ask?
In a flashback, Zuko discovers that instead of facing the general he insulted, he would be facing his own father. Even though Zuko has been distinctly unlikable thus far, Episode 6 provides a terrible backstory that ultimately explains why his father expelled him from the Fire Nation. Zuko once spoke out of turn during a war council, objecting to a general's proposal to sacrifice an entire military unit as part of a larger strategy. He felt that the strategy was insensitive and unworthy of the Fire Nation, but he had to take part in the customary Firebender battle, Agni Kai, as retribution for making his father seem bad. When he learned that his father would be his opponent, he was taken aback. When they battle, Zuko has the opportunity to burn his father, but he chooses not to. Zuko retaliated during the combat, but to his father's anger, he pulled punches when he had the upper hand. In an attempt to stifle his empathy, Ozai burns his eye, telling Aang that compassion is a sign of weakness, a statement Zuko subsequently repeats to him. The troops of the 41st Division, who would have been sacrificed in the original military plan, are given to him as his crew while he heals, and Ozai banishes him to boost his morale. Aang approaches Zuko on his boat and inquires about the possibility that they may have been friends in a different situation. In return, Zuko launches an assault. All Aang does is shove his boat off.
Have you ever wondered how vision will be fine? Which means you...
Doctor says you'll recuperate quickly. But it wasn't. It was week to week to make yourself strong. That...
You just have to give them a chance.
Leave here immediately. You are not to set a foot within our concern with the 41st Division.
After Zuko's face gets severely burned as a kind of punishment, Zuko is then exiled from the Fire Nation by Ozai until he returns with the Avatar.
Perhaps it's because we don't want...
Iroh relates the tale of Zuko's scar to their crew's lieutenant, who despises Zuko, and clarifies that they are the battalion designated for sacrifice. Only because Zuko defended them do they still exist. They all bow to Zuko as he comes back, and he is greeted like a hero. The only reason Iroh is still alive is because of Zuko's sacrifice, and he explains to Ji how he became a member of Zuko's gang. Thus, even if Zuko was unable to recover the Avatar, at least he has won his men's allegiance.
Slow down. Lieutenant Dang and I were burning the midnight... Oh, back to Capital City where he is to stand...
A freshly motivated Lieutenant Ji enters Zuko's chamber in Avatar, The Last Airbender, Episode 7, and issues a warning. He learned that Zuko will be arrested for treason by the Fire Nation. Zuko uses a lifeboat to get away. Sadly, Zhao used this knowledge as bait and disclosed it. When he rigs Zuko's boat with blasting jelly, it blows up. It appears that Zuko is dead. But as we soon discover, Zhao and Dang are the ones who came up with this plan. The gear we saw being used in episode 3 is abundant on the boat Zuko. The boat explodes instantly, probably killing Zuko. Naturally, Iroh was aware of this trick beforehand, and later on, it becomes clear that Zuko is actually on board the ship, posing as a member of the crew. However, this prevents him from appearing throughout much of the North.
You should have finished.
Didn't feel like a game when that boulder was flying. Send every bender he has at me.
These days, Aang is more resigned to the reality that he lacks experience. He expresses gratitude to his friends, whom Katara refers to as Team Avatar. When they get to the Northern Water Tribe, they already know that the Fire Nation poses a serious danger. Iroh believes Ozai is responsible for Zuko's death, and Zhao promises to launch an attack on the Northern Water Tribe.
Chief of the Northern Water Tribe, the joy it brings us to welcome along Yue, our tribe's spiritual leader.
It's under attack.
We know.
We are grateful to have you with us.
Great day for our city, as we welcome...
Stop staring. Huh? Why don't you just go? It's just a girl. No way. Dude, see... Missed it for the world.
Agna Ker, the Northern Water Tribe's capital, is reached by Aang, Katara, and Sokka in the meanwhile. They encounter Master Pakku, the senior waterbending master, there, along with Arnuk, the head of the tribe, and his daughter Yue, the spiritual leader. Speaking with Master Pakku, Katara finds that he understands her hardships. Yue leads Sokka in. After speaking with her, he recalls that a three-tailed fox wearing her headgear communicated to him in the spirit realm.
I get it. I know. Every now and then I just have to...
I took that seriously. If I didn't do it, sometimes I wish I could be...
The priest could have come.
I'd love to talk to our brother from the south. Is it metal?
Sure.
Aang's lack of preparation and training disappoints the chiefs of the Water Tribe. Katara discovers that women from the north are not permitted to practice battle, but she does learn how to cure wounds with waterbending.
It's still being practiced.
Yes. Yourself. You understand what it means to... You are a natural.
Which reminds me.
Fight. We use our skill.
It's just that. That's not right.
Understood. It'll be great. And especially...
Anyway, the princess and I...
At his shrine, Aang converses with Avatar Kuruk. Kuruk cautions Aang that if he doesn't follow his path by himself, his loved ones would suffer. Aang turns to Avatar Kuruk for assistance after discovering that the tribe chiefs are not very thrilled with him and that in episode 2, Kyoshi gave him a vision seeing the destruction of Agna Ker by the Fire Nation.
Up to you. She said it gave me the strength of 1,000 to take control. She could channel the power.
Of crossing over into our realm from spirits to seek vengeance on me.
However, Kuruk is not very helpful. Kuruk's image as something of a coward stems from his tendency to distance himself from his people and let them fend for themselves. But he tells Aang that this is because he had to battle bad spirits in the spirit world after realizing they were approaching soon after he became the Avatar. He was severely weakened by the experience and lost his ability to rule the Avatar state. Aang can't channel him the same way he did Kyoshi because of this. Kuruk also says that a spiteful ghost claimed his beloved Umi. In episode 6, Roku made mention to this face, which is one of Ko the Face Stealer's disguises. Kuruk persuades Aang to attack the Fire Nation by himself, believing that his allies will add undue stress to his duties. Yue admits to Sokka that the fox he saw is indeed her. Meanwhile, Sokka is trying to summon the bravery to go up to Yue, who he knows from someplace. He finds her rather ordinary, in a good way, after speaking with her and noticing some of her headgear. The identical fastener, fastened around one of the fox's tails in the spirit world he spoke with in episode 5, was used. The moon spirit gave its essence to Yue so that it may survive as a newborn. Thus, Yue's dreams can take her to the spirit realm. She gives Sokka a kiss. Katara is not allowed to train or battle with Master Pakku. Katara is told by Aang that she shouldn't fight and that it's best for everyone if he stays by himself.
This battle.
Aang, you're not gonna...
At last, Katara is eager to start learning waterbending from one of the best teachers in the tribe, Yagoda. She soon finds out, though, that women of the Northern Water Tribe are not permitted to engage in combat. Instead, they must remain on the sidelines and serve as healers. Since Katara has been battling firebenders the entire time, more than can be said for the male soldiers of the Northern Tribe, she isn't having this. However, Katara determines that challenging Pakku to a battle is the best way to persuade him because he won't back down on the matter. Pakku and Katara engage in a stylish combat that ends with Pakku winning, but it would have been absurd if he hadn't. But Katara prevails because her perspective is amply supported by the audience, who are all incredibly thrilled by how effectively she performed. Although Zhao's offensive strategy against the Water Tribe is audacious, he disregards Zoro's advice. Under the armor of Fire Nation, Zuko is still alive. He's keen to show his abilities and purity, but he has no intention of taking the Avatar. Iroh believes Zhao is someone's pawn. Azula has had enough of Ozai's treatment of her. She demands an opportunity to shine and has the mastery ability to bend lights.
Choose your opponent.
Done.
Azula, stop playing.
No. I can show you what I can really do.
Ozai gladly obliges. Katara and Sokka find support in one another. Even after a fierce duel, Pakku still won't allow her to engage in combat. Aang is informed by Katara and Sokka that it is entirely up to him how he wants to live as the Avatar. Furthermore, they are family, thus it is natural for them to care about one another's safety, yet nothing can stop Katara from fighting. They are fighting beside each other. Both Katara and Sokka are adamant about sticking at Aang's side and engaging in combat with him. He believes it's fair enough that they are choosing to fight so he doesn't have to worry about them or feel responsible for them. Firebombs eventually start to fall from the sky. This marks the arrival of the Fire Nation. Okay, after watching the Avatar live-action conclusion, you might have a lot of questions. Gordon Cormier's character Aang and the other members of the team are heading where? Now that they know the truth behind Zuko's banishment, what decisions will Zuko, Dallas James Liu and Iroh, Paul Sun-hyung Lee make? What crafty plan will Daniel Day Kim's character, Fire Lord Ozai, next come up with? Let's examine the Avatar live-action Netflix finale in more detail. The adventure of Aang doesn't stop with Avatar, The Last Airbender. Although Season 1's Episode 8 has all the big action and dramatic moments you would anticipate, it's not really a conclusion. Season 2 is expertly built up by a typical Fire Nation deception in the last moments. I'd want to take this opportunity to thank you for following along with our recaps of Netflix's live action of Avatar Season 1. Please, and I ask again, please, just leave a comment with your honest opinion on what you think of the entire series, the ending and what you expect from Season 2 and 3. Also like this video as it helps us grow tremendously, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification. Okay, let's proceed. The Fire Nation fleet is led by Admiral Zhao, Ken Leung against the Northern Water Tribe city of Agna Kera in the season finale, as Aang, Katara, Kai Wintio Tarbell, and Sokka, Ian Owsley are ready to defend the Water Tribe soldiers. Now that the final battle has arrived, Aang, Sokka, and Katara ambush a Fire Nation ship in the opening moments of the film. They are unaware, however, that Agna Kera's soldiers have nothing on their massive fleet that is approaching from the horizon. Understanding the difficulty presented by the city's unbreakable ice wall, Zhao takes advantage of the chance to carry out his plan that evening during the Uncommon Ice Moon event, which is when the material and spiritual realms collide. Zhao tells Iroh that he has another plan while the Northern Water Tribe gets ready for a customary battle, and Katara persuades Pakku to let all of the ladies in the tribe participate. The ocean and moon spirits temporarily assume mortal form on the eve of the ice moon in order to get a deeper understanding of mankind. This is when the siege occurs. Zhao intends to destroy the moon spirit, the source of strength for all waterbenders. Sensing that Zhao is about to use Avatar Kuruk's dagger to murder the moon, Kuruk appears to Aang and tells him of this plot. Aang leaves Katara to fight Zuko, who has sneaked into Agna Kera by himself in an attempt to abduct Aang, and heads off with Sokka and Yue to stop Zhao from carrying out this plan. Zhao observes a pair of fish swimming in a yin and yang pattern within the grove. The fish are black and white. He takes the moon spirit, the white fish, and gets ready to stab it, reasoning that this must be the spirits. Zhao succeeds in skewering the fish in spite of Aroz's interference, obliterating the moon and taking away the waterbender's abilities. The Fire Nation moves in and quickly shifts the course of the conflict, overwhelming the opposition in their path.
Relying on the past when it stops.
The side of the wall needs reinforcement.
You are viewing the Northern Water Tribe. But most importantly, Sokka. We're here to help. Try our best. All right.
What?
The waterbenders draw this strength.
No. Ice moon. A ray thin.
To the north. I knew brute force was nothing.
There is wisdom to be gleaned from the old home of the Water Tribe. It was from this oasis the tides come from the spirit of the moon. Waterbenders, they take in order to better understand.
And death.
Are you?
Avatar Kuruk?
One created with materials from the
Kill the ocean and moon spirit?
Women, children, I'm
not be allowed to meddle with the primal force, but it pales before the...
Breathe. Something terrible is about to happen.
Thank you.
This grow overheated by the earth. Here, give him to me. So, what is that? How do you know that?
As I form the ocean and moon.
No idea.
In the following pandemonium, Zhao finds himself cornered by Zuko and Iroh. He confesses that he has worked with Fire Lord Ozai and Azula to defeat Zuko, admitting that Ozai was just using Zuko to inspire his sister to improve. As Zuko was preoccupied by the discovery, Zhao tried to utilize his ability to bend fire on him, hoping to kill him while he was lying flat on his back.
We need to stop Zhao.
We can't let that happen.
Yes.
The power of this. Even Ozai would.
Can't see the bigger picture. Will still work out for you, Iroh. The Dragon of the West.
Before I can't bend. A small man who's going to meet a small end.
But Iroh moved quickly to stop Zhao, protecting Zuko from his blows and killing Zhao in the process. Princess Yue, who holds a portion of the moon spirit's life inside her, comes up with a strategy as the Fire Nation fleet is destroyed and the ocean spirit is still furious over the death of the moon spirit.
Through all this, who I did think I needed to know. It's all you were.
No! We'll cover your retreat.
Aang surrendered to the ocean spirit after failing to defend the moon spirit. This turned Aang into a strong aquatic monster that, in a fit of retaliation, destroyed the Fire Nation's fleet, preventing their invasion.
Or my will. I can save my...
Through him and access the power of the Avatar.
Yui!
The Avatar. No, Zuko! We must!
After giving Sokka a kiss and stopping him from moving to stop him, she offers herself as a sacrifice to bring the moon spirit back to life and bring the world back into harmony.
All that's left is a vessel.
There must be something we can do, some way.
Thank you. I was touched by the moon spirit as... It's worth everything.
Oh, this is your home. Wait.
Please, you don't have to do it.
The waterbenders are able to recover their powers thanks to Yue's sacrifice, and the ocean spirit is forced to stop its rampage when the moon spirit returns, rescuing Aang in the process. But they are unsure about what to do next. After hearing Katara say how much she needs him, Aang decides to come back, even though he is disappointed in the way the battle turned out and the amount of damage that was done. But his pals encourage him to keep going and start studying the other bending skills. Katara assures Aang that she would help him learn waterbending after demonstrating her adeptness at it during the siege. Sokka advises Aang to go back to Omashu in order to practice earthbending.
Generation of waterbenders who need...
But Aang still has a journey to complete.
This he couldn't have asked. Water?
After Zuko and Iroh manage to get away from Agna Care, Iroh informs them that Lieutenant G is waiting for them aboard their ship.
Because I failed to...
There's going to be losses. There's going to be...
past and start thinking about what you still have to... I think I understand something, Gyatso. We'll never have a future. That's right. You're gonna learn waterbending.
So...
Oh, I could go for it.
Back in the Fire Nation, Fire Lord Ozai finds out about the Avatar's role in their loss at the Northern Water Tribe. Ozai, unfazed, writes off Agna Care as a trivial diversion. As the action moves to Azula and her troops seizing Omashu and kidnapping King Bumi, it is implied that they are going for Ba Sing Se, who has the secret to taking over the Earth Kingdom. An announcement regarding Sozan's Comet's upcoming 100-year reappearance concludes the show. 100 years ago, the Fire Nation utilized this comet, which is notorious for its ability to substantially increase firebending strength, to kill airbenders. And as the season comes to a finish, it becomes clear that Azula's conquest of Omashu was achieved by deceit, and for that reason, he will require them. The Fire Nation's conquest is far from finished as Sozan's Comet is about to return.
Sozan's